We begin with the latest from Washington, D.C., where in just hours from now, Donald Trump will be sworn in as the President of the United States for the second time. The stage is set for the grand event that the world has its eyes on. The ceremony will be held inside the United States Capitol Rotunda. It is the circular central space below the dome of the Capitol. Here, U.S. Chief Justice John Roberts will administer the 35-word oath of office. Trump will swear on a Bible before reciting the presidential oath. The inauguration was originally due to take place in front of the U.S. Capitol, but has been shifted indoors due to the Arctic storm hitting the United States, to a venue that was overrun 4 years ago by rioters seeking to overturn Joe Biden's victory in the 2020 election. Analysts say that today's inauguration of Donald Trump is a remarkable moment in American history. The Republican leader's comeback is being touted as one of the most extraordinary ones in global modern politics. He is only the second president in over 230 years of American democracies to have come to power, lost the re-election, and then returned to the Oval Office. The other leader to have served non-consecutive presidential terms was Grover Cleveland, the 22nd and 24th U.S. president in the 1880s and the 1890s. Now, once sworn in, Trump will then deliver his inaugural address, where he will outline his priorities for the coming term. He is expected to deliver on key promises he made during his campaign. Donald Trump may also bring up his first-day executive orders. He is expected to sign a historic number of these orders on day one in office. Let's take a look at some of them. First, a mass deportation plan targeting undocumented migrants. Donald Trump has promised to launch the largest deportation plan in American history. Second, pardoning Capitol Hill rioters. Trump has promised to pardon defendants convicted for their role in the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. Third, ending birthright citizenship. This is a right granted to anyone born in the United States under the 14th Amendment. Fourth, ending the Russia-Ukraine war. In terms of foreign policy, Donald Trump has promised to end the Ukraine war within 24 hours of taking office. Fifth is implementation of tariffs. Trump has promised to slap tariffs on products imported from Mexico and Canada, two of America's biggest trading partners. Trump lists also extends to ending Joe Biden's electric vehicle mandate, increasing oil drilling in the United States, banning transgender athletes from women's sports, ending gender-affirming care practices, and a fresh push to the American auto industry. Let's take a look at who's attending this grand event in Washington, D.C. Now, the inauguration is expected to bring together all living former U.S. presidents, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, George W. Bush, and Bill Clinton. World leaders attending the ceremony include Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban, Argentina's President Javier Milei, Ecuador's President Daniel Noboa, and Paraguay President Santiago Peña. From India, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar will attend the ceremony. Chinese President Xi Jinping was also invited, but Vice President Han Zheng will represent the country. From the United Kingdom, far-right politician Nigel Farage will be at the ceremony. Now, those not invited for Trump's inauguration ceremony include the UK's Prime Minister Keir Starmer and the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. Now, these two leaders were recently criticized by Elon Musk, and Elon Musk will be leading Trump's Department of Government Efficiency. French President Emmanuel Macron has also not been invited. Now coming to business tycoons and tech CEOs who will be present for the ceremony: Tesla and ex-CEO Elon Musk, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg, and Apple CEO Tim Cook, the CEO of Google Sundar Pichai, TikTok CEO Shouzi Chu, the OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, Reliance Industries Chairman Mukesh Ambani, and Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi. Now, Those who have declined the invitation include the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and the former First Lady Michelle Obama. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who is set to step down after losing support back home, will also not be attending. Donald Trump's family will be central to the event. His wife and his 5 children, along with his grandchildren, will be present. Due to the freezing temperatures in the capital, a planned parade down the Pennsylvania Avenue with military regiments, school bands, and floats and citizen groups has been cancelled. The parade will now take place at the 20,000-seat Capital One Arena in downtown Washington. With an estimated 250,000 ticketed guests, security has been tightened across Washington, D.C., including 25,000 law enforcement and military personnel, 7,800 National Guard troops, and 4,000 officers from across the country. Thousands of protesters are also expected to gather around the Capitol to oppose Trump's policies, which they say will undermine women's rights, the rights of immigrants, LGBTQ+ community, and racial and religious minorities. Once the ceremony and the gala dinner finish, Trump has vowed to get down to work on day one. The decisions he takes during his second term in office will not just impact America's political discourse, but also the world's, at a time when wars and economic uncertainties loom. Now, for more on this, we have with us Michael Leon. He is the host of a news commentary podcast named Can We Please Talk? And he is joining us live from Miami. Welcome to First Post.
Allison, thanks for having me.
Now, what does this list of those attending, those uninvited, and those declining to attend the event say about Trump's and America's future dynamics with world leaders?
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting what you just ran through there in terms of some of the world leaders that will be attending, some that won't. For people that don't live here in the U.S., obviously there's been a huge snowstorm that has come through the Northeast. So that is why a lot of this got moved inside and indoors because of the freezing cold temperatures that are taking place right now in Washington, D.C. Your graphic just kind of showed there a little bit of the snow outside. So it wasn't really for security reasons. It was a lot to do with the weather and the impact that would have on it. But what do I make of everything that's happening right now in terms of what Donald Trump is pledging to do in these first 100 days, even in these first 24 hours of executive action is going to be very interesting to watch because some of the world leaders that are shown here on the screen are folks that are very aligned with what the MAGA movement has brought to the United States. And they're very aligned with that. So I'm not shocked that, Giorgia Meloni, for example, or Javier Milei, the president of Argentina, are attending this. But as you noted before, Emmanuel Macron and Justin Trudeau, some other leaders that are, left-leaning in terms of their countries are not attending this event. And I don't make anything of those invites because, with the weather, with the way this was all kind of upended over the last couple of weeks, I think that there was some issues with different travel schedules and things like that. So I don't make too much of it, but whether or not they work together and what Donald Trump decides to do with respect to the U.S. on a foreign stage is what I'm more interested in learning about because he already has some issues here at home working with the Democratic Party.
Right, and Michael, given the list of executive orders that you mentioned that Trump is likely to sign, how might they align with his previous policies and what immediate domestic or global consequences could they trigger?
Yeah, so the executive orders is going to be interesting to watch as well because he's pledged to sign over 200, at least in this first week. Right now, executive actions, for example, don't supersede law, but there is, some wiggle room with respect to how executive orders are implemented. I think the biggest ones to watch first and foremost are what he addresses at the U.S. southern border. Under President Biden, there has been encounters that have been decreased because of executive actions that the president has taken in terms of the amount of folks that are seen on a daily basis at the U.S. southern border. So that has helped with the stem, but I'd be interested to see what he does there in terms of legislation. I know that you posted earlier a bunch of the executive orders, and some of them, how would they be implemented? For example, the Russia-Ukraine war, right? The president has pledged to end that in 24 hours. That's just not possible. I don't know how you bring both sides to the negotiating table right now with executive action. Do you bring it with diplomacy, of course, but not with executive order and action? And then there's, some of the tariff stuff that has gone back and forth between the president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, and obviously Justin Trudeau and Donald Trump, and how that would impact just here, the North American trade that we do with Canada and Mexico. There's something there that the president was pointing to with his True Social post recently about that. Everyone's very interested to see how that would work, because we get a lot of manufacturing goods from Canada with respect to lumber. We get a lot of our auto parts from Mexico. So that is going to affect a lot of different industries. And that's going to be something that I think a lot of people are going to be interested to watch as well.
And while we've seen the political leaders remain divided on attending or skipping the event, big tycoons and tech titans are clearly not. How do you view this?
Not great. I think it's very dances that line of, impropriety to have people that work in such big industries like tech, which influence user behavior with respect to some of these social media apps. And we see what's playing out here with TikTok. And I think the president is going to issue an executive order to give a 90-day stay here to ByteDance to sell to a US-based company. But a lot of these big CEOs are billionaires, and a lot of their companies not only create jobs, obviously, for US and foreign workers, but they also influence our discourse. They influence user behavior, like I mentioned, in terms of what consumers shop and buy, for everything from an iPhone to posting a story on Instagram and what you get fed algorithmically through the feed. So I'm not crazy about the way big tech has embraced Donald Trump, or at least has remove some of the guardrails that could at least, allow or disallow for the spread of misinformation on social media. I don't think that that's helpful with respect to U.S. discourse. That's why I started my show, to do something about that. And I'm not crazy about the way this is starting to shape up with how Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, and Jeff Bezos have all kind of catered up to the incoming administration, because I would have liked to be done in different ways in terms of job creation here in the U.S. So we're going to see if that is what's at play, but I don't think that's what's at play.
Right. Michael, thank you very much for being with us on Firstpost and for your valued insights and analysis.
Thanks for having me, Alison.
From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, shedding light on the world's top headlines, detailed analysis on the stories that matter the most to you. Catch it all on Spotlight at 6 p.m. India time and 12:30 GMT, only on Firstpost.